Good evening, dear listeners, and welcome to another enriching episode of our literary program. This evening, we are thrilled to bring you a very special guest, an emerging voice in contemporary poetry from Nagaland, Miss Roselyn Miachieo. Roselyn has recently made her literary debut with a remarkable collection of poems titled The Morphing Years, published by Penthrill Publications. Ms. Roselyn is not only an accomplished poet and an author, but she also worked as a copy editor at Nagaland Tribune and has won several titles in beauty pageants, including Miss Kohima, second runners-up 2018, and participated in various fashion weeks. Ms. Roselyn, we are pleased to have you here with us today. Can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi everyone. My name is Kedimenla Roselyn Miachieo. I am 25 years of age and I am the author of The Morphing Years. I am currently working as a guest faculty in Don Bosco College, Kohima.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. With that, we will dive into the very first question. How and when did your journey with writing first begin?
So I think this is a very interesting story that I'm going to be sharing with you. My writing journey began quite early. I would say that it started when I was around the age of 12 or 13, which would be when I was in class 4 or 5. So during this period of time, I think that our society saw the emergence of K-dramas, Korean dramas. And me, along with my friends, we were very much influenced by K-dramas, which led us to write dramas in general. So what happened was we, amongst our friends, we would write stories, dramas, and we would share it amongst our friends, and we would give each other reviews as though we were the best critics in the world. So yeah, that was the first phase of my writing. And during this period, I would also like to state that although we were influenced by Korean dramas, we wrote in the Western voice. So in this case, we made use of characters that were influenced by Western. So I would make use of names like Gary, Sophie, James, and not only that, but even the lifestyle of these characters would be westernized. So this was the first phase of my writing journey. And then there's also the second phase, which I turned to a more personal sort of a writing. I turned towards journaling and maintaining a diary where I would vent when I had really bad days, or I would share my most happiest moments with my diary. So that was the second phase of my writing. The third phase was a little bit different from the first and second phase because in the third phase, I was able to approach writing in a more professional sort of writing, because when you look at poetry, you're able to condense a lot of meaning in just one stanza or in just one line without revealing too much. So I think that is where I'm currently at, the third phase. And if it is okay, I would also just like to share something, a message for our listeners from that story, particularly from the first phase. So what I learned over the years is a lot of us as Nagas, we are very much influenced by Western writings. So when we do write, we tend to make use of Western names or Western lifestyle or Western cultures and traditions. Now here, I would like to encourage our listeners, whether you write or not, to encourage our upcoming generations to make use of our Naga voice by writing, even if it's not our local dialect, just making use of Naga names or Naga lifestyle or Naga traditions and cultures. And in that way, you are also able to promote our society, not other societies, but our society. So that's just a small message that I want to bring out from my journey in writing.
That was so beautiful. The transition from Korean dramas to the Western world and to journaling, and at the end, you are now here with a beautiful work of your own. I think that's really brilliant. And I could totally relate when you say that you would vent out on your journals. So I think a lot of readers can relate to that as well. Alright, so moving on to the next question. You made your debut in the literature world with your very first book, The Morphing Years. So what inspired you to write this book? Could you tell us more about the central theme and the message?
Okay, so I would say that this book has been inspired by the people and the situations that happened over the course of my life. What happened was I did not really have the easiest of childhood or teenage years growing up, and alongside that, I was also very introverted as a child. And so I did not have a friend that I was comfortable enough to share my stories with. And with that, I harbored a lot of pain, a lot of resentment, a lot of trauma in my heart, which I could not share with anyone. And I wanted a space or a medium in which I could just let it go, let it all flow out. And that was when I found poetry to confide in, because as I mentioned earlier, poetry is something that you can contain a lot of meaning in just one line, in just a stanza, without giving away too much. So that is what inspired me to write poems and bring this collection into the world. When we're talking about the central theme, I would say that it's all about growing up, just finding your space in the world, discovering yourself, your inner self. And then the message that I would like to give out is, I think I would like to take away from the central theme of the book and then just give a message, which is it's okay for you to not be okay sometimes. And although things may seem rough and although things may seem like it will not end, you will find a way out of it. So I think that's the whole message of the Morphing years.
I love that. I think your work carries so much of emotional honesty and the whole evolution and the memories of your childhood. And even the title is beginning to make so much sense in a deeper way now. And such a beautiful reminder that all of us need to know sometimes that it's okay not to be okay. We want to know about your journey and the process of your book. What was the most challenging part of putting this book together? Did you experience any creative or writer's block? And if so, how did you navigate it through it?
I think approaching this book, I faced 3 major challenges. The first one was revisiting memories and trauma, which was very hard. These are things that for anyone, it's hard to revisit because it puts you in a very vulnerable space. So that was one of the challenges that I faced. Some of the poems in the collection, they contain a lot of pain and trauma. And to write a poem that contains such kind of themes, I had to revisit memories and traumas which were very difficult for me to deal with. And when you're writing a poem that surfaces from such kind of emotions, it reverberates in your mind for days on end. So I think that was the most difficult part of writing. That was one. The second being that I had to find the perfect illustrator. What happened was when I approached an artist, the illustration that I was provided was not really up to my expectations. Not because it was bad in any way, but I feel that there is a very fine line between a writer and an illustrator, because you should find someone who can illustrate the images or the pictures that you have in your mind perfectly to resonate with your work. So that was the issue that I faced with my artist. So I had to look for a proper illustrator the second time around. And I would just like to give a shout out to Kenny Draws, because she illustrated the cover art of the book. And here, I just want to point out that for any writer out there who is looking for an illustrator, it's very essential for you to find an illustrator who is in the same mental wavelength as you, so that they can also provide you with the illustration that your heart desires for. So that was the second challenge. And the third challenge was the anxiety, the stress, and then the self-doubt from putting my book out there into the world for the world to see or the world to read and critique. But I was able to overcome that challenge by 3 individuals who have really made a mark in my life. The first being Mem Adenyo Shirat Luikam. She was the first person to proofread my work, and I think it's very important for you to approach the right person to read or proofread your work, because that is the first person that you're approaching. So she was very kind enough to proofread my work and also provide me feedback, and she encouraged me to put my work out there for the world to read. So the second person was Ma'am Teyesinyo Kiditsu. She also goes by the very popular Instagram name Mekla Mama. She was the second person that I approached, and she also gave me constructive criticisms, and that's where I learned where the tweaks that I could make into my poetry to make it more refined. And then The third person that I approached was my publisher, and that is Ma'am Rita Crocha herself, the owner of Pentrel Publication House. So the three of them were literally my pillars into bringing this book into creation, helping me to overcome my challenges. So I think for any writer out there, it's very important to find people who can help you to grow, not only as a person, but also as a writer.
Thank you for sharing your vulnerable thoughts with us so openly. I think many aspiring writers will really resonate with that. So Ms. Roselyn, you are a very versatile person. You're not just a writer and a poet, but you are also a beauty pageant. You're writing, you're also teaching. So how do you handle your professional life with your creative passions?
I would say that as long as you love something enough, you'll make time for it. Even if you get very busy, even if you get no time at all, I think you'll be able to squeeze a little bit of your time to do something that you're actually passionate about.
That's really inspiring. Moving on to the next question, I'm personally excited for this one. From among all the pieces in the Morphing years, do you have any personal favorite, or is there any piece that holds a very special place in your heart? If yes, would love to hear that.
So I have two poems in particular that holds a very special place in my heart, particularly today, since we're revisiting the past. I would like to read two poems for you. The first one is titled Multiple Selves. Humor me, my own silly selves, a universe compact into the human body, the adult, the little, the pessimist, the optimist, the timorous, the barbarous. I cannot count the number of their existence, but their little amusement park they've made of my mind. No, I'm not quiet. I chatter more than I should really. Surely, more in my head than reality. Bizarre conversations always. And in crowded rooms, I smile and giggle alone, as though a lunatic or a madman. They bewilder and baffle. How they exist, they tell me not. So I shush my mouth, to not let people know, for to know of these personas, you might think I require aid, or more odd, find me ever amusing, and join me on my table to be ever in constant peculiar chit-chat. So that is the first poem. The second one, it is titled First Love. He is my first love. I do not recall when, but I do remember how. He comes to me every night and whispers sweet nothings. His face so fair, it dazzles my soul. I stay beyond bedtime to be his companion. I speak to him and he listens quietly. He sees and hears what others do not. Not a soul knows of our bonded love. My secrets are his for eternity. Ever so often he disappears, and I grieve for his absence. But when I know not, he watches me sleep, unwavering. Through the hours of darkness, he is my solace. He is my first love. The moon he is.
That was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing a piece of your heart with us. So are there any poets whose work feels like home to you, writers who have deeply influenced your writing?
So I would say that there are a lot of writers out there who have influenced me, but I want to keep it local today. I cannot begin without naming the three particular individuals who have influenced me, which is Mem Adenyo Shiratluikamo, Ma'am Sinyo Kiditsu, and also Ma'am Rita Crocha. And then apart from them, I also have Ma'am Emisenla Jamir. There's also Ma'am Nini Lungalang. I think a lot of us are aware of these individuals who are really making their mark in the literary scene in Naglin.
So moving on, what do you hope your readers take away after reading your book?
Honestly, that is very difficult for me to have expectations because I'm also just entering the literary scene with my debut book. But one thing that I would like for my readers to take away is that they are never alone, whether it is something that they are fighting from mentally, physically, spiritually. You are not alone and you deserve to be seen, you deserve to be heard, and I see you.
Beautiful. So what other advice would you offer to first-time authors or aspiring poets who are listening right now?
First of all, I think finding the right editor is also very important. For many writers, I think the first necessity that an author or a poet should opt for is to have a really good editor. A lot of writers that are emerging at the moment, we submit the raw manuscript to our publisher, which makes it really difficult for them to also edit the works. So I would suggest any emerging writer to find a really good editor to edit your work, to give constructive criticism, and also to help you with grammatical mistakes. So that's the first part of being a writer. The second would be, as mentioned earlier, finding the right illustrator. You really should find an illustrator who is able to bring out an art that you harbor in your heart. And the third thing would be the publication house. As a writer, I think you should also opt for a publication house that meets your requirements. And the last but not the least, it is okay for you to cringe at your work, to look at your work and experience self-doubt, but don't let that stop you from realizing your dream of becoming a published poet, a published author. I think that the last part would be the most important part of it.
Thank you for sharing so many valuable insights. I am sure that someone out there needed to hear this today. And finally, before we wrap up, can you please leave a message for all the listeners tuning in right now?
First of all, I would like to thank our listeners for listening to this interview, being part of my writing journey. The second message that I would like to send out is, if you can at all, then I would really love for you to perhaps get a copy of my book, which is titled The Morphing Years, and also leave a review or tag me on Instagram. My Instagram handle goes by at k.roselyn.miachieo. And the third message that I would like to send out is, don't forget to take care of your health, whether it's physically, mentally, and spiritually. Thank you.
What a lovely note to end on. Thank you, Ms. Roselyn Miachieo. It has been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for giving us a glimpse into your journey and the heart behind the morphing years. We wish you the very best in your future endeavors. So that was an interview with Ms. Roselyn Miachieo in our literary program. This is your host, Ms. Vedulu Medeo, signing off. Do tune in to our next episode for more interactive sessions with authors, writers, and poets.
Please like and subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for the latest contents. Also, follow us on all our social media handles.